talk about something that has been intriguing me a bit, and something that has poked my shadows, but also makes me realize, oh, I'm probably poking other people's too with that, like it's a bit judgmental, Sam. And that is that my craft isn't necessarily a judgment on anyone else's craft, and someone else's craft isn't a judgment on my craft. See what I mean here? So unfortunately, something that comes up a lot in society at large when there's a topic that people really freaking care about, like religion, raising children, etc. and so forth, is what is the best way to do a thing? And there is no real best way to do a thing. There are many different ways to do a thing. But there are definitely bad ways to do a thing, you know, with raising children. We don't abuse the children. Normal common sense things, you would hope. But then what qualifies as abuse can, in some ways, very much not be debated, but in other ways, it starts to toe the line a bit, you know? Things when people argue over hitting your kids, not hitting your kids, what type of discipline would include verbal abuse, not verbal, emotional, like there's all these different things. Things that I know nothing about in any sort of educational context, because not a therapist in any way, shape, or form. But those kind of debates interest me. And I was thinking, as I was watching over different shows and stuff that I like, and about how this weird thing happens when, say, a child is raised and then they realize that there is something about their childhood that they didn't like or didn't work well for them, and so then they go in and they start raising their child differently, and then suddenly their mother is taking how they're raising their child as a direct attack against her. And it's like, whoa, no. I mean, it might be. It might be a direct critique on how you raise, because they're not raising them exactly the same, but also this is a different person, your child, with different values, all that stuff. So they're gonna raise their child entirely differently because they're a different person, right? And so that debate was kind of coming up in some of the shows I was watching, and it was a reoccurring thing, and I was like, but what if that applies also to religion and witchcraft and all those things in general as well? Because you see it all the time, where I've had some interesting interactions with people where they don't know I'm a witch, and so they then say things, these are more like Christian strong people that I'm having to interface with, and they'll say things like, oh, you know, because people who do that are just trying to get at the Christians, you know, the idea that like someone expressing their faith is not an expression of their faith, it is actually a direct attack on Christianity. And that is very weird to me. And at first I was like, well, how in the world can anyone think that? Like, how in the world could anyone sit there and be like, that person's just doing what they're doing over there. It's not an attack on you. It's got nothing to do with you, quite honestly. Like, take your ego out of it. Take a step back. It's not all about you. But then I realized I was doing that as well. I was doing that when you hear people state so emphatically how much they love a thing or how much they dislike a thing in their personal life, and suddenly it almost feels like a personal attack on you because the thing they are saying doesn't work for them, even if it's not in a very strong way. Even if they're just like, no, I don't really love that as much as, like, that doesn't make me happy in the nice, all the good ways, all the good vibes, doesn't give it to me. And then you're like, but it does give it to me, and if it doesn't give it to you, are you saying it shouldn't give that to me? No, they never said that. That was never in any of the words that were stated there. They just said they just didn't like the thing for them. They had not one thing was stated about what it does for you. And I find it interesting when I hear people so emphatically talk about how amazing protection magic is for them, or how important certain aspects of the craft are for them, right? And I hear that stuff and I'm just like, but it doesn't work that well for me. And I'm now really having to check myself a bit at going like, whoa, them not liking the thing or them really liking the thing that you don't like is not an attack on you, and it's got nothing to do with you. They don't even know you're watching the video, reading the blog post, or what you do in your personal craft. You haven't shared that yet. So why in the world would you take that as a personal attack? And then I've noticed it on the other end where, you know, there are times where I will express a liking for things like the Wheel of the Year. And it is interesting when I hear some people then do the same thing that I had just done, where they're like, oh no, but I really, and having that reaction I think is kind of normal. Like, no matter what, we're all a little like, no, it's our thing that we love, so we protect it and don't touch it. Why are you criticizing it at all? But it is interesting how I've noticed this a little bit in my comment section from time to time. how it pops up where I will state an opinion on something negatively or emphatically positive. Like, it's either or. It's never like just when I say things negatively or just when I say things positively. It's a bit of both. And someone always comes in, and even if they're not flat out saying the words you're wrong, like it's in that standpoint, right? Like, it's not, I don't agree with you, I do this. It's, that's not how you do witchcraft. You should do it this way. Like, it's very like directorial in a sense. And in some ways I have to like curtail that a bit, because my direct reaction is like, fuck you, I can do what I want. But afterwards I have to sit there and go, well, no, wait, is that just a bit of advice saying, hey, look at that tool again? Maybe you judged too harshly. Maybe you should try protection magic again. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should be more cautious when working with this thing. And so I do a bit of both. But I realize that is the thing that I do in reaction, and possibly I'm feeling from others in reacting to me expressing my opinion on an online platform. No matter what, you're gonna get agreement and disagreements on things, but me saying how much I love working with bones and a demon is not me saying that anyone who doesn't work with a demon is not doing anything correctly. No. No. Do what you want to do. I don't care. And it's not a dissension on your craft as valid or invalid. The same thing comes up with, I think, a lot of times when people talk about curses and hexes and the whole like fluffy bunny, or, you know, this comes up a lot with the authentic witch being shallow or not shallow, all of these things. And I even get a little triggered by this at times when people are saying like, no, we should check this, or we should, you know, look into there's something rubbing wrong here. And them expressing whether or not what works for them is not an attack, or what doesn't work for them is not an attack on someone who it does work for, right? Someone just expressing their personal practice. Now this can get tricky because sometimes people try to say things like, this is not a real thing, it works for me at all, and this is utterly ridiculous. And as you're listening to them, you're like, like you're like, you keep saying things, but I feel like a different vibe is coming up. But maybe I should caution myself with that too, right? One of the things that I've really tried hard to work on is, I grew up in such a passive-aggressive environment with my friend groups for a very, very long time. And finally, the only way I knew how to freaking handle any of it was when I went into grad school, was to stop worrying about what was being said between the lines, what was being hinted at, what may or may not be going on in people's heads, and having me overthink about what was happening in people's heads. Do they approve? Do they not approve? What was trying to be said under nines? Instead, just what was the exact words that came out of their mouth? What was the exact thing written down? And what is the exact, like, straightforward definition of what they were saying? Like, what was the exact message they were trying to get across? Not what I think they were saying. Not what was held between the lines. Not what was hinted at in their tone even. What was actually said. Because, oh my god, how many times have I sat there and heard someone say something and been extremely offended, and then a little bit later realized that that is not at all what they meant in the slightest, and it was all just on what I took from a single like uptick in their tone on a single word. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, that's just how they speak all the time, but because they spoke it in that way with that word, I suddenly took what they were saying as slightly sarcastic and diminutive of what I was saying earlier. Like, what? Like, communication's very weird. So I have to take everything so straightforward now, and because otherwise I get confused and I overthink, and it just works really well for me to do that. And if someone comes to me and says, well, I said that, but that's not what I meant, then I was like, then you should have said what you meant, because you weren't being direct. And it's not on me to read between your mind and your lines and see what exactly it is you're saying. And so I'm doing that a lot now with YouTube videos as well, because I realized, I was like, what is the hidden meaning here again? And it's like, no, there's no hidden meaning. It's what they said. It's what they said. Take what they said. That's it. No, what they said is what they meant. If you're looking for some hidden meaning elsewhere, you're not going to find it, and it's just going to confuse you, even if they didn't mean it. Just don't know. Just simplify it. Make it simple. Make it simple. So that's one of the things that I am attempting to do more of now, where I am trying to focus. Ooh, that's rocky. Don't do that. I'm trying to focus more on taking things for exactly as they are, and I hope that more people would do this too, because I think that's part of the reason tensions get so high, right? Is People look at people expressing different parts about something that's valuable to them, whether that be how they operate in their craft, or or something they don't like in the craft, or something they're noticing in the community. And they sit there, and if they are doing a vein of that in the community, they take it as a, you shouldn't be doing that at all because that one person didn't like it. And it's like, no, they're just saying they don't like it for them. That's it. Doesn't have to be any deeper than that. Almost, I guess it's like, take the surface, like the surface meaning, maybe is only deep meaning. Maybe there might not be any more deeper meanings underneath what a person is saying. And you know, just saying like, I like this thing, just means I like this thing. It doesn't mean that you not liking the thing means you are invalid. It does not mean that you not liking the thing is a direct attack on me. It doesn't mean that I will never talk or speak with you if you do not like the thing. It's very interesting in this way, right? Something I am noticing. I don't know, this got really babbly and rambly, and I'm hoping I'm making some sense here. But that is something where I'm trying to, as I'm reading into other people, and as I'm listening to other people talk about stuff, realizing that my aunt, for example, believing in Christianity is not her sitting there and saying flat out that everyone who isn't a Christian is going to burn in hell. Some of my relatives think that. They have said that to me, and it's like, oh great, oh, you're a peach. But other people, like, not every Christian is going to think that way. And knowing that and seeing someone say, I like Christianity, that works for me, is not attack on someone saying, oh, I like witchcraft, and so if I do witchcraft, you assume that I'm wrong. But that seems to be a big thing with a lot of religions, right? Like, it's in general, like organized religion, it's like you're with us or against us. It's one of the two. It's like, no, you can be just different than me and exist different from me. And it's not a judgment in any way, shape, or form, right? Like, I think of this in hexes and curses in general. Because I don't hex or curse. I see it as mostly a waste of energy towards someone else that I don't know about the effects yet, about what they're gonna do. Other people see hexing and cursing as a very valid, very important part of their witchcraft and stuff. Me not doing hexes and curses is not necessarily a judgment on anyone who's doing hexes and curses, right? Some people don't do hexes and curses and very much do judge people who do hexes and curses. But that's not everybody, right? Like, just because that person exists who says, I denounce this, it means no one should do it. Doesn't mean that everyone who says, I don't like the thing, is like that person. Make sense? Hopefully? Maybe? I don't know. Comment down below. Have you noticed yourself doing this? Where you're like seeing someone say, I am for or against a thing in spirituality or whatever, and you're like personally feeling attacked by that, even if they haven't flat out said anyone who does the thing is like bad and wrong. Or do you think maybe I'm wrong in this sense and that we shouldn't take so much the surface level, because there is a little bit of hidden meaning that people put in there? Because I feel like that's almost the best defense. Like, I'm not saying that's not what people are doing. Like, I definitely, like I said earlier, have relatives who say, I'm a Christian, and from that they mean that anyone who is not a Christian is not a good person and is burning in hell for all eternity. Lovely. Thank you for that opinion. Like, them holding an opinion is very much a judgment on everyone who does not have that opinion. But my best way to handle those type of people nowadays, that just works extremely well for me, is to not attempt to see that other level, is to act oblivious in a sense and just go, well, you said you're a Christian, so you believe in Christ, okay? Well, yes, but, and like, have them say the thing out fucking loud. Like, if you're gonna say the hateful or the judgmental or like whatever it is that you are trying to say in a backhanded way, I'm not gonna let you get away with saying it in a subtle way. I'm gonna make you say it flat out. And if you're too uncomfortable to say it in front of me, then maybe you shouldn't be saying it. You should think about that. And same thing with me, right? Like, if I am trying to get a message across and I am not stating it in flat out terms, what does that mean? If I cannot flat out just say a thing right out because I'm afraid of offending somebody, or I am knowing I'm going to get a negative reaction for something, then why am I attempting to say it subtly at all? Maybe I should keep my mouth shut and keep that opinion to myself, because maybe it's a judgment I have no place doing. If it's worth saying, say it fucking outright. Anyway, this part of YouTuber, that was a random ass babble, but I felt the need to get it out there. I don't know, it was like a thing that was just ruminating. Anyway, comment down below all the questions I had earlier, and I'll see you guys next time, which is tomorrow.